Hey guys, I'm out here today in the garden. You can see everything's really coming up nicely. I have 9 rows of sweet corn and it's a little yellow. It's not quite as deep green as I want it to be, and so it needs nitrogen. I know that my soil is nitrogen deficient, and I thought about using blood meal for that, but unfortunately blood meal takes time to break down and become available for the plants. There is a little bit available in the very beginning when you apply it, but it really needs some time to break down and become available. So I'm actually just going to use 3400, which I believe is ammonium nitrate. And it's not my first choice, probably not the best thing to do using commercial fertilizer, but it's all that I can do right now, and this crop really needs it. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply that on so that these guys will turn nice and green and continue to grow really healthy for me and give me a good harvest. So I had just had a cup of coffee right before I started filming this video and doing the work on the corn here. And sometimes I get a little ambitious and think, oh, I can do all this work myself. But it becomes quickly much more than I can handle on my own. So my little guy actually came down to help me. And when we realized that he and I were going to take quite a while to do all of this, I sent him up to go get the other kids to come down and help. When we're all helping, it goes so fast. So you can see here I've got my hoe, and I'm just making a trench in between each row of corn. And what that's going to do is that's going to provide some soil up at the base of the plants. And then Dominic's going back through and he is bringing that soil up around the base of the corn. Corn has such a shallow root system, and we can get some pretty strong winds here occasionally. And if we get winds that are strong enough and the corn is not stabilized, it will blow over and I will lose the whole crop. So we always try to hill up the corn in the beginning of the season when it's about knee high or so. And here you can see my girls helping us out. I'm going through with that 3400 fertilizer and sprinkling that in the trenches there between each row of corn. And I'm using about 3 cups per 70-foot row. That is what the application rate called for. They do actually have tractor attachments that will run between the rows of corn and hill it up for you so that you don't have to do it by hand like we're doing here. You can see it's pretty tedious. But when you have sort of this market garden set up, 1, you really can't get a tractor in there, and 2, that attachment is just really too big for this type of a garden. So you'll see us here now. I decided to go back through afterwards and cover up that fertilizer with some of the Miracle-Gro soil that we had gotten a little bit earlier in the season. I will tell you, I am not super thrilled about the soil in these bags. It's really not soil. There's some peat moss mixed in. There's really large chunks of bark and really large chunks of wood. In fact, it's very comparable to the wood chips that I have in the walking paths in this in-ground garden. So yes, not really thrilled with that. So I thought I would sort of use that as a mulch here. And so I'm just opening the bags and I'm going to pour that onto the rows in between the corn. I had some volunteer sunflowers pop up here, and they were shading the corn so much that I actually had to take them out. It was kind of sad, but we did that. And in that final row down there, you'll see that there's sunflowers there. I did 3 rows of corn in that particular row, and unfortunately the last row of corn is really tiny because it's being shaded out by those sunflowers. So I'll know for next year that I need to bring my corn a little bit further up in the garden and not so close to those sunflowers so that I will get a good crop from that row. Unfortunately, this year they probably won't produce much for me. While the kids were finishing up putting on the last bag of soil on that last row there, I decided that I would tie up some of my tomato plants. They're getting pretty tall, and so I'm pruning off the lower 18 to 24 inches of the plant. As they grow up, I'll prune more of the bottom leaves, and then I'm just tying them with baling twine to the cattle panels. I'm trying to keep each tomato plant on its own side of the cattle panel. That way there's a good amount of air that can travel between these 2 rows, and I'm hoping that that will eliminate any fungal issues that I might have. We have really high humidity in South Carolina, so that is a concern, and so we'll see how this works out this year for us. After we finished up all of the tomatoes, we went up to the house and took a break, and the kids got cleaned up. I decided to come back down to the garden. I had to harvest some lettuce from this particular bed, and when I did, I noticed that there were hundreds of either centipedes or millipedes. I'm not exactly sure. You can see one here kind of crawling over that drip line. There were so many of them. So I had the girls bring me down a couple of chickens, and these chickens really did a great job for us on this. And here we are bringing the chickens back up to the house. They did a great job, and we are all going to call it a day down here. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.